What if the man who saved the universe was also destined to become its greatest threat? The MCU has a hero-sized hole in its heart, and we've all been wondering who could possibly fill the void left by Thanos. The answer, it turns out, might have been staring us in the face for years. The one future. Let's start at the end to find the beginning. Remember Doctor Strange on Titan holding up that one finger, one future out of 14,605? For years, we all bought the simple narrative. That was the one and only timeline where the Avengers beat Thanos. But what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if Strange wasn't looking for the only path to victory, but the only path that didn't lead to something infinitely worse? Strange's job as the Sorcerer Supreme isn't just about protecting Earth from aliens with god complexes. It's about protecting the very fabric of reality itself from multiversal threats. He's not just a wizard, he's the ultimate cosmic gatekeeper. He didn't just see 14 million ways a single battle could go down. He saw 14 million branching realities, entire universes born from every possible outcome, universes where Thanos lost, but Tony Stark lived. Now think about that. In a handful of those timelines, Tony probably retired, raised his daughter, and lived happily ever after. But in millions of others, he would have kept going. He would have kept building, upgrading, and obsessing over the next threat. Strange saw futures where Tony's relentless drive to protect everything didn't just create another Ultron, it created a man who would decide that the only way to truly save reality was to control it completely. Strange saw the birth of a monster born from the mind of a hero. So that one finger wasn't a signal of hope, it was a terrifying act of cosmic triage. Strange wasn't just choosing the path to beat Thanos, he was choosing the only path that also eliminated the greater long-term threat of a Tony Stark who lives long enough to become a multiversal tyrant. The sacrifice play wasn't just about winning the war, it was about preventing Tony Stark from becoming the next one. It was the only way to kill two birds with one stone, or rather one snap. The God Complex. This theory isn't just a random guess, it's rooted in the very DNA of Tony's character. From the moment he became Iron Man, his entire arc has been a battle against his own ego and his terrifying need for control. He privatized world peace, tried to build a suit of armor around the world with Ultron, and single-handedly fractured the Avengers because he believed his way was the only way. Every single one of his catastrophic failures, from Ultron to the Sokovia Accords, stemmed from one core belief, that he and he alone knew what was best for everyone. Now let's talk about Victor Von Doom in the comics. People mistake Doom for a simple power-hungry villain, but that's not his game. Doom is a man of science and sorcery who is genuinely, unshakably convinced that the world is a chaotic mess and that only his absolute iron-fisted rule can bring about true peace and prosperity. His methods are tyrannical, but in his mind, his goal is noble. He doesn't want to destroy the world, he wants to save it from itself. Sound familiar? It's the exact same logic Tony Stark has operated on for over a decade. He's always been one bad day away from deciding that democracy, free will, and teamwork are just inefficient variables in the equation of global security. His obsession with control is the same seed of tyranny that defines Dr. Doom. The only difference is that Tony always had friends like Steve Rogers to pull him back from the brink, but in a universe where he survives Endgame, haunted by loss and convinced of his own righteousness, who would be left to stop him? He wouldn't see himself as a villain. He'd see himself as the ultimate savior, the only one with the will to make the hard choices. And that right there is the very soul of Dr. Doom. The Devil's Blueprint. So you have a hero with a pre-existing god complex, haunted by failure and loss. All he needs is a push, a final terrible idea that gives his obsession a tangible goal. Enter Thanos. Just before the final battle in Endgame, Thanos lays out his new plan. He's not just going to snap away half of life anymore. He's going to shred the entire universe down to its last atom and build a new one. A grateful universe where no one remembers the old world or its failures. It's a moment that most of us just saw as classic villain monologuing, but Tony Stark heard it, and for a man like Tony, that wasn't just a threat, it was a blueprint. Thanos' plan is almost word for word the plot of the 2015 Secret Wars comic storyline. In that event, after the entire multiverse collapses, Dr. Doom uses immense power to salvage the broken pieces of dead realities and forge a single new patchwork planet called Battleworld, with himself as its god emperor. In this new world, people don't remember their past lives. Heroes and villains are given new roles, and everyone lives under the absolute authority of Doom, the man who saved them from annihilation. When Thanos described his plan, he inadvertently handed the ultimate Plan Z to the one man in the universe smart enough, arrogant enough, and broken enough to one day consider it. The idea of wiping the slate clean, of building a perfect world free from random threats and human error, would be intoxicating to a man who spent his life trying to control every variable. Thanos may have lost the battle, but he won a small, insidious war. He planted a seed of an idea that didn't die with him. It planted itself in the mind of a hero who was already dangerously close to believing that the only way to fix the world was to break it first. A world without Stark. If you want a glimpse of what a Tony-led future might look like, you don't have to look far. Just turn to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness in Earth 838. At first glance, it looks like a futuristic utopia. The streets are clean, the pizza is free, and the world is protected by the Illuminati. But look closer, and things get creepy. This universe is a place where Tony Stark's vision for Ultron actually worked. The planet is patrolled by efficient, non-genocidal Ultron bots. But here's the unsettling part. Tony Stark is completely absent. There's no mention of him, no Stark Tower, no legacy. It's a world where his greatest success is everywhere, but the man himself is nowhere to be seen. It just doesn't add up. If Tony had perfected Ultron, he'd be running the show, probably sitting at the head of the Illuminati table. But he's gone. Or is he? The Illuminati of Earth 838 aren't heroes. They're a cold, calculating cabal of rulers. They murder their own universe's Doctor Strange without a second thought because he became a threat. Their core ideology is control equals peace. The exact same philosophy that defines Doctor Doom. What if in this universe, Tony didn't just disappear? What if he evolved? What if he saw the failure of traditional heroism and decided to become something bigger? Something that operates from the shadows? What if the Stark of this universe is the secret power behind the throne, the one who built this system of absolute control and then erased himself from the picture? Those Ultron bots marching in perfect sync might as well be Doom bots. Earth 838 could be our first look at a world secretly run by a Tony Stark variant who has already made the leap from hero to God Emperor. He wouldn't be on a throne giving speeches. You just see his work, a world of perfect, terrifying order where the populace has forgotten who built their cage. The Secret War Within. This all brings us to the future of the MCU, Avengers: Secret Wars. If the movies follow the comics even loosely, the saga will culminate in the collapse of the multiverse and the creation of Battleworld. And Battleworld needs a creator. It needs a God Emperor. For a while, we all assumed that would be Kang the Conqueror, but his future is now complicated, to say the least. The MCU needs a new big bad, one with the intellectual might and sheer audacity to hold reality together. Who better than a variant of Tony Stark? A version of him that survived Endgame, took Thanos' final speech to heart, and spent years mastering not just technology, but perhaps even mysticism to achieve his goals. Imagine a Tony who, after seeing science fail time and time again, turns to the mystic arts to find the absolute power he needs to enforce his will upon reality. A man with the intellect of Stark and the magical reach of Strange is the perfect recipe for God Emperor Doom. This isn't just about bringing Robert Downey Jr. back for a nostalgia trip. It would be a fundamental recontextualization of his entire legacy. It would mean the hero we mourn could return as the villain we must fear. The entire multiverse saga would become a battle for the soul of the MCU's founding father. The ultimate conflict wouldn't be against some alien conqueror we just met, but against the dark reflection of the man who started it all. It's personal, it's tragic, and it's the kind of epic character-driven storytelling that made the Infinity Saga so great. Whispers from the creators. And if you think this is all just elaborate fan theory, it's worth noting that the idea has been floated by the architects of the MCU themselves. The Russo brothers, who directed Infinity War and Endgame, have openly discussed the possibility of Robert Downey Jr. returning as a variant of Tony Stark from another universe, specifically teasing that it could be a villainous turn. They didn't lay out the details, but they dropped the idea into the ether, letting us know that a dark version of Iron Man is very much on the table. It's the kind of cryptic hint that makes you reevaluate everything. Why would they even suggest such a thing if it wasn't being considered in some capacity? It feels like they're telling us that Tony's story might not be over, and that his death in our universe was a crucial event, not just for its own timeline, but for the entire multiverse. It suggests that a living Tony Stark is a universal liability, a fixed point of potential catastrophe that Doctor Strange had to surgically remove from the board. When you line it all up, Strange's choice, Tony's lifelong obsession with control, Thanos' Thanos' universe-rebuilding speech, the mystery of Earth 838, and the hints from the creators themselves, it stops feeling like a theory and starts feeling like a setup that's been years in the making. Marvel has been playing the long game, burying the seeds of its next great saga under the noise and spectacle of its last one. A different kind of doom. The search for the next Thanos might be over before it even begins. We've been looking out at the cosmos for the next big threat when we should have been looking back at the hero who gave everything to save us. The ultimate irony of the Infinity Saga could be that Tony Stark's final, selfless act didn't just save our universe. It may have been the only thing preventing a version of himself from enslaving all the others. The next time you rewatch Endgame, listen to Thanos' final speech. It's not a villain's last words. It's a warning. It's the origin story for a new kind of doom. One with a familiar face and a broken heart. The MCU's greatest hero is dead, but the threat he could become may have just been born in the infinite branches of the multiverse. And that is a villain far more terrifying than any mad titan.